Do you believe in prophecy? Is it just a coincidence, or could there be a deeper force at play guiding the events of our world? Today, we're diving into the chilling predictions of a famous seer, Dixon, whose visions of the future have left an indelible mark on history. These weren't vague, generic predictions. They were specific, detailed, and eerily accurate. And perhaps the most unsettling part of all, her prophecy for 2025. Imagine having the power to see the future. You could know when you're going to meet someone important, what profession you're destined for, or perhaps most terrifying of all, when and how your life could end. Dixon, an American clairvoyant, had this ability. Her remarkable gift wasn't just a party trick. It was life-changing. And sometimes it was life-ending. Her first major prophecy came in the early 1940s, when she warned Hollywood actress Carole Lombard about an impending plane crash. Dixon told her, "Don't fly in the next 6 months." Lombard, dismissing the warning, continued with her plans. Tragically, just days later, the flight crashed, killing everyone on board, including Lombard. This wasn't an isolated incident. Throughout her life, Dixon foresaw monumental events, from political upheavals to personal tragedies. In 1944, she predicted the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and a few months later, Roosevelt passed away, just as Dixon had foretold. Her accuracy in predicting these events earned her recognition as one of the most reliable seers of her time. But what made Dixon's gift even more remarkable was its early onset. From a young age, Dixon demonstrated an uncanny ability to predict small personal events. She described a letter with a black border before it arrived, detailing her grandfather's death. Later, she predicted that her father would bring home a black and white dog when no one had even mentioned it. These were small things, but they set the stage for her more significant predictions. One of the most fascinating stories from her early years occurred when she met an Egyptian palm reader, who told her parents that Jean would become a great prophet. This wasn't just a casual prediction. It was a message that would follow her throughout her life. And as she grew older, her prophecies grew more public, more powerful, and more unsettling. Dixon wasn't just predicting celebrity deaths and political shifts. She saw global wars and disasters that would shape the world. For example, in 1971, Dixon wrote a book in which she prophesied that the year 2020 would bring a global war of disease. This was years before the COVID-19 pandemic, yet it mirrored her description of a world brought to its knees by a virus. But the most chilling part of her prophecy? 2025. According to Dixon, this year would be a defining moment for humanity. She saw a violent conflict between two superpowers, China and Russia, and she predicted that China would emerge victorious. Now, many of us may not be directly involved in such a conflict, but the implications are profound. Could this be the start of a new global order? It's easy to dismiss such predictions, especially when they seem far-fetched. After all, we're already months into 2025, and so far no such conflict has erupted. But there's something in Dixon's work that forces us to ask, could the future be changing? Or are we simply blind to the signs? In the coming sections, we'll dive deeper into Dixon's predictions for 2025 and explore other prophetic visions that echo her warnings. Stay tuned as we unravel the mysteries of the future and ask yourself, what if the world is on the brink of a turning point, and we're the ones who must decide how to respond? As we delve deeper into Dixon's prophecy for 2025, let's pause for a moment and consider the broader implications of her predictions. While the world waits, uncertain about what the future holds, Dixon's visions may not be as distant or far-fetched as we like to think. What if this year 2025 is truly the tipping point, as she foresaw? Could we already be on the cusp of the events she predicted, waiting for that final domino to fall? Dixon's prophecies were never just about isolated events. They were part of a larger tapestry, a series of warnings woven together that pointed to a dramatic shift in the global landscape. The most unsettling part of her 2025 prediction wasn't just the war between China and Russia. It was the underlying tension the shift in power dynamics that could completely alter the course of history. Let's take a moment to think about the world as it stands today. Tensions between the United States and China are at an all-time high. From trade wars to technological rivalry, the competition between these two superpowers is playing out in front of us, almost like a stage set for the kind of confrontation Dixon warned about. Her prediction that China would emerge victorious in a struggle with Russia raises the question, could Dixon have been referring to the current global tensions between these nations, albeit in a different form? But Dixon's prophecies didn't just center on political events. She foresaw personal tragedies too, and one of the most chilling predictions came when she described the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Back in 1956, when Kennedy had yet to declare his candidacy, Dixon boldly predicted that he would be assassinated in the first year of his presidency. The public dismissed it, but in 1963, her prophecy came true with terrifying accuracy. Not only was Kennedy assassinated, but the assassin's name, Lee Harvey Oswald, matched the cryptic description Dixon had given years earlier. This was a moment that catapulted Dixon into the national spotlight, and from that point forward, her credibility as a clairvoyant was undeniable. But Dixon didn't stop with Kennedy. Over the years, she continued to make predictions that seemed to reflect the chaotic trajectory of the world, from the rise and fall of political figures to natural disasters and global shifts. Her prophetic abilities were uncannily on point. And while some dismissed her as a sensationalist or a charlatan, those who followed her work couldn't help but notice the startling accuracy of her predictions. One of her most significant predictions came in 1971 when she published a book titled The Call to Glory. In it, she described a vision of the future, one in which a global war would erupt not in the traditional form of military battles, but in the form of a war waged by disease. As the world grappled with the COVID-19 pandemic, many looked back at Dixon's words with a sense of unease. Could this be the war she predicted? A virus that would spread across the globe, causing chaos and upheaval? What's even more troubling is that Dixon's 2025 prophecy seems to be more relevant than ever. It's not just a vague prediction of future events, it's a clear, disturbing forecast of global conflict. She saw a clash between two major powers in Asia, China, and Russia over the fate of the world. But what if we're missing the forest for the trees? What if the war she spoke of wasn't a literal conflict, but something far more insidious? A war of ideologies, economies, and resources. This question leads us to another key part of Dixon's prophecy, the idea that one person of boundless love and compassion would emerge amidst the chaos to lead humanity toward peace. Amidst the turmoil, Dixon foresaw a figure who would unite the fractured world and guide us toward a brighter future. This part of her vision raises an intriguing possibility. Could the year 2025 be both the beginning of a global crisis and the turning point toward a more compassionate, peaceful world? In Dixon's mind, the future wasn't a one-way street. It was a crossroads where humanity had the power to choose its destiny. And while we're on the subject of prophecy, let's turn our attention to another prediction that shares eerie similarities with Dixon's vision. In 1999, a Japanese manga artist named Tatsuki published a graphic novel titled The Future I Saw. In it, she recorded 15 prophetic dreams, and remarkably, 14 of them have already come true. But the final dream, the one that hasn't happened, yet foretells a disaster greater than Japan's infamous 301 earthquake. It speaks of a new landmass rising from the ocean in the South China Sea, connecting Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. According to Tatsuki's dream, this event will occur on July 5, 2025. Now, this might sound like science fiction to some, but the details of Tatsuki's dream are worth considering. The rising of new land, an earthquake, or a volcanic eruption that could reshape the geography of the region is a striking possibility. It echoes Dixon's prophecy of a turning point in 2025, though in a more literal, physical sense. Could these two prophecies be connected in some way? Is the South China Sea, as both Dixon and Tatsuki predict, the site of a major global event? Let's also take a moment to revisit another chilling tale. In 2022, a man who claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2062, posted on an online forum. He warned that the South China Sea would soon experience a catastrophe, urging residents to prepare for something unprecedented. This warning, coupled with Tatsuki's dream and Dixon's predictions, paints a picture of a region on the brink of disaster. Whether it's a natural disaster, a geopolitical conflict, or something else entirely, it's clear that this area of the world is poised to become a focal point of global tension. But what does this all mean for us? Are we simply passive observers, waiting for the future to unfold? Or do we have the power to shape our destiny? Dixon's prophecy, with its message of a compassionate figure rising from the ashes of destruction, suggests that there's hope, even in the darkest of times. If we can learn anything from these prophecies, it's that while we may not be able to control the world around us, we can control how we respond to it. As we move into the final section of this video, we'll explore the real-life implications of these prophecies. Are we truly living through a turning point in history, or are we just caught up in a cycle of fear and speculation? Stick around, because the answers may be closer than we think. As we reach the final part of this journey into the eerie world of prophecies, it's time to address the most crucial question. Can we change the course of our future? For all the talk about global conflicts, disasters, and ominous predictions, the real lesson in these prophecies might not be about the events themselves. It might be about how we choose to react to them. Jean Dixon's vision of the future, especially her foretelling of the year 2025, presents us with a crossroads. There is a looming threat, a global upheaval, and yet amidst this chaos she also saw a glimmer of hope. According to Dixon, while the world might seem on the brink of disaster, a figure would rise who would embody boundless love and compassion, someone who could unite humanity in the face of uncertainty. This is perhaps the most profound aspect of Dixon's prophecy, the idea that even in the darkest times, there's a chance for redemption. While the world might be heading toward a brutal conflict between superpowers, there is also the potential for someone, a single individual, or a collective movement, to help guide humanity toward peace. It's a reminder that, even though we may not be able to control the course of history, we always have the power to shape how we respond to it. But what about the predictions of others? Could the prophecies surrounding 2025 be interconnected, not just pointing to a singular event, but to a series of events that are meant to push humanity into a new phase of existence? Let's consider the time traveler from the year 2062 who warned about the South China Sea. His message, posted just before the devastating 2011 earthquake in Japan, was eerily prophetic, and when he returned in 2022 with another warning, it caught the attention of people around the world. Is this just coincidence, or could it be a sign that we're on the verge of something significant? The fact that multiple sources, from Jean Dixon to the Japanese manga artist Tatsuki, have all pointed to the same year, 2025, suggests that we are indeed at the precipice of something monumental. The man from the future urged us to prepare for what he called an unprecedented event. It's easy to dismiss these warnings as mere speculation, but the consistency across different prophecies cannot be ignored. Whether it's a time traveler, a manga artist, or a renowned psychic, they all seem to be pointing to the same conclusion. 2025 could be the turning point, the year when the world shifts in ways we can't fully anticipate. And let's not forget that these prophecies aren't just about disasters. As Dixon predicted, they also carry the promise of a savior figure, someone who could lead us out of the storm. Could this person be someone already on the world stage, or could they emerge unexpectedly from the chaos? What if the real power of prophecy lies not in foretelling disasters, but in inspiring people to rise to the occasion when the world needs them the most? This brings us to an important reflection. Are we as a society prepared for what's coming? Have we, in our rush for progress, neglected the deeper, more spiritual aspects of life that Dixon's prophecies seem to emphasize? Perhaps the true lesson of 2025 lies not in predicting who will rise to power or where the next war will be fought, but in how we, as individuals and as a collective, choose to respond to the challenges that lie ahead. We live in an age where information is at our fingertips, where we can see global events unfold in real time. But with all this knowledge, how often do we pause to reflect on the bigger picture? How often do we take a step back and ask ourselves what kind of future we want to create? Dixon's prophecy, while unsettling, challenges us to not just watch history unfold, but to actively participate in shaping it. In the face of uncertainty, it's easy to succumb to fear and panic. It's tempting to think that the future is already written, that there's nothing we can do to change it. But the reality is more complex. History has shown us time and again that change is possible, often in the most unexpected ways. A single decision, a single act of kindness, can ripple out and create waves of change that reshape the world. As we reflect on these prophecies, both the unsettling and the hopeful, one thing becomes clear. The future is not set in stone. It's not a rigid path that we must blindly follow. Instead, it's a series of possibilities, a vast ocean of potential, and we are the ones steering the ship. Perhaps Dixon's message was never just about predicting the future. It was about empowering us to take charge of it. The true power lies in our hands. As we move into 2025 and beyond, the question isn't whether disaster will strike, but what we will do when it does. Will we rise to the challenge, guided by compassion and hope? Or will we fall victim to the fear and uncertainty that so often accompanies times of crisis? In the end, what's most terrifying about these prophecies isn't the prediction itself, but the potential for us to ignore the warnings, to let the darkness consume us without ever reaching for the light. But even in the midst of the greatest turmoil, there is always the chance to choose a different path. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest prophecy of all is the one we create for ourselves. So, as we approach 2025, let's not merely wait for the world to change. Let's take responsibility for shaping the future we want to see, because in the end, that's the most powerful prophecy of all. As we come to the end of our exploration into the prophecies surrounding 2025, we're left with one final question. What does all of this mean for us? The predictions from Dixon, Tatsuki, the time traveler from the future, they all share a common theme, a pivotal moment in history, a turning point that will shape the world as we know it. But beyond the disasters, beyond the conflicts, lies a more profound lesson that transcends any one prophecy. Let's think about this for a moment. We've heard about wars, about rising seas, about global shifts that could change everything. But what if in the face of all these challenges, there's something even more powerful than prediction itself? What if it's our response to these challenges, our ability to rise above fear and uncertainty, that holds the true key to shaping the future? Dixon's prophecy about 2025 speaks not just to a global crisis, but to a global opportunity. She spoke of a time when the world would be on the brink of disaster, but in the midst of that chaos, there would be someone, or perhaps a collective movement, that would bring humanity back from the edge. This figure, marked by love and compassion, would be the light in the darkness. The question is, how do we ensure that this light is not just a distant possibility, but a present reality? As we reflect on the prophecies and warnings, it's important to consider what role we play in shaping our destiny. Whether it's a natural disaster or a political conflict, there are always choices to be made. We can either be passive observers, waiting for the inevitable, or we can take an active role in forging a future that aligns with the kind of world we want to live in. If we look at history, we see countless moments where ordinary individuals rose to extraordinary heights in times of crisis. Think about the resilience of communities in the wake of natural disasters, or how people have come together during times of war to rebuild what was lost. What if we, as a global community, could channel that same resilience into creating a more peaceful, compassionate world? It's easy to feel helpless in the face of such overwhelming predictions. After all, these prophecies are so grand in scope, wars, rising seas, and political upheavals that could alter the very fabric of society. But in each of these stories, there's an underlying message. The future is not entirely out of our control. The choices we make, the actions we take, the way we treat one another, they all matter. The power of prophecy, in the end, isn't about knowing the future with certainty. It's about understanding that we have the agency to shape that future through our decisions. Dixon's prophecy about a figure of compassion emerging from the turmoil serves as a reminder that, in every moment of crisis, there is also the potential for great change and healing, and it's up to us to decide how we will respond. Let's take one last look at the message from the time traveler. His warning about the South China Sea, about a catastrophe waiting to happen, is chilling. But it's not just a warning about the disaster itself. It's a reminder that we must be prepared. Prepared not just in terms of material resources, but mentally and emotionally as well. In moments of crisis, our true strength lies in our ability to stay calm, to act with wisdom, and to stand together. And this is where hope lies. Even as the world faces uncertainty, we have the power to choose how we engage with the challenges that come our way. We don't have to wait passively for the prophecies to come true. We can be the ones who turn them into something meaningful. We can be the ones who shape the future, with compassion, with resilience, and with the belief that even in the darkest of times, there is always the potential for light. So, as we move toward 2025, let's not wait for the world to change on its own. Let's be the change. Let's step forward with courage and with love, knowing that we are capable of creating a future that is not dictated by fate, but shaped by our collective actions. And perhaps, in doing so, we will fulfill the most important prophecy of all, the one that tells us we are the ones who can bring peace, hope, and healing to the world. Before we end, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think the prophecies we've discussed here could come true? Or are they simply the stuff of legends and stories? Have you ever had a moment in your own life that felt like a glimpse into the future, or maybe a feeling that you were meant to be in a particular place at a particular time? Share your experiences and thoughts in the comments below. I'm always fascinated by how people interpret the unknown, and if you want to continue exploring more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Until next time, stay curious, stay hopeful, and keep asking the big questions.